I feel like it's probably too soon for another podcast, but I have been cranking out these finished objects. So here you go. Hi everyone, welcome back to Study Knits. My name is Allie. I'm a medical student living in the US and I love knitting. This is podcast number 5. In my last podcast, I had so many whips and I was complaining about my number of whips. And then within the span of a week, I finished 3 of them and started 2 more whips. So I felt like it was time for a catch up, not because of time, but because I really just whipped out these whips. I just finished them all. And I'm a bit proud of myself for that because a couple of them, I don't know that I would have had the strength to power through. If you can't tell, I'm in a new place again. I am in upstate New York right now. I'm staying with one of my really good college friends and her boyfriend for a couple of weeks for another rotation. I actually have this week off, so I've been able to get a lot of good knitting done, recorded a couple of videos. So it's been a really nice recovery week. The weather's been really nice here. It's a little chillier here than it has been the past couple of weeks for me. But I still am pushing through the rest of my summer knits. Also, as part of the intro, I usually talk about things that I've learned since I last filmed a podcast because I'm a relatively new knitter, been knitting for 4 years, and I'm still working on my working knowledge and greater understanding of knitting and especially like yarns and fibers and just things like that. And I feel like the YouTube community has been absolutely incredible because during my last video, I had a couple of things that I really didn't know what was going on with, and I got so many comments about like suggestions for what to do or just telling me like what they thought was going on, and a lot of the people said the same thing, so I'm taking that as truth. So in my last video, I had my finished boat neck batwing top, which I knit with mercerized cotton, and it was turning a little bit peachy at the seams, at the shoulders, and I wasn't really sure why. I wasn't sure if it was the sunscreen. I wasn't sure how to fix it. I got a lot of comments saying it was probably the sunscreen reacting with the mercerized cotton. And apparently you can fix it by soaking mercerized cotton in hydrogen peroxide. I have not yet tried it. However, I think I'm going to try it at some point. I don't know the next time I'm going to go to the beach, so the boat neck batwing might be put away until next summer. Worth it to not get burned and not get skin cancer, but my boat neck batwing did sacrifice itself for that. Maybe I can fix it. I'll probably try next season to fix it, and I will, of course, let you all know how it turns out. Then the other thing I learned, I was making my harvest tee. It's actually this that I'm wearing now. I'll talk about it in a second, but I was making my harvest tee, and when I split to work in the round and work flat, the gauge was kind of off. It was a bit bigger when I was working flat. And a lot of people said that when you purl, you actually use up more yarn. So that makes your gauge a little bit wider when you're working flat than when you're working in the round. And I did not know that. Some suggestions were when working flat, you could switch to a smaller needle when working your purls and then work in the back, or just work your purls tighter. And since learning that, I actually worked a gauge swatch flat, and I consciously the whole time was making sure my purls were tight and making sure my pearls were not super loose. I paid special attention to it, and I feel like I've never gotten a more consistent looking flat gauge swatch in my life, which is crazy. So thank you to all the people that told me that purling takes up more yarn and that's what causes your gauge to be off, because I never knew. With that being said, I'll dive right in. Usually now is when I would tell you about what I'm wearing, but I'm actually wearing one of my newly finished objects. So we'll just start talking about the finished objects. This is my harvest tee by Ozetta, knit with Knitting for Olive Merino in the color Thundercloud. I just finished it last weekend. I used a US 2.5, a 3mm needle. This is my third one of these that I've made. For the other 2 that I made last summer, I also used Knitting for Olive Merino. I used a US 3 which is a 3.25 millimeter needle. And the gauge was a little bit big. So I used I'm just going to refer to them in millimeters now. So I used the 3 millimeter needle instead of the 3.25 millimeter needle this time. My gauge was definitely more like the gauge of the pattern it's supposed to be. I don't remember the numbers exactly, don't ask me. And I feel like the fit is it's just a little bit less loose. This was a pretty slow whip. I think I started this maybe 2 or 3 months ago because it is a fingering weight yarn, knit on small needles. It has a lot of positive ease, as you can tell, so it's a pretty bulky garment. I knew it was going to take me a really long time. So I've been slowly just like working away at this whenever I wanted something easy in stockinette or just something that would slide off the needles really well. This is actually my first time wearing it because it just finished blocking last night. I don't know how I'm going to feel wearing it out and about, but so far I love the way that it looks. I'm very happy with how this turned out. The only modification I did with this top was that I did a provisional cast on. It is knit from the bottom up, and then you pick up the sleeves after and work the sleeves and the neck edging afterwards. I wanted to make sure I used up pretty much all of my knitting for olive merino in this. I didn't want to have any leftover. So to ensure that, I did a provisional cast on, worked a couple of centimeters in the round, then split for the front and back, worked sleeves, neck, front and back, everything. Then at the end, I went up and I picked up the provisionally cast on stitches and worked the remainder of the body from the top down until I had used up almost all of my yarn. I have this much merino left. I feel like there's 3 different gauges in this pattern since we already talked about the gauges. There's the really tight one from the first time I knit in the round. It's really loose when I knit front and back. And then when I picked up the stitches that were provisionally cast on, it was like a just right gauge. However, I do feel like it blocked out pretty well, and I can tell a little bit, but really not that much. The only other thing, I feel like, I think you can see it here, right? There's this little bump here. It's on both sides, and I feel like it's probably just from how I blocked it. Like I could see myself tugging on the edges to make sure it was even. It's on both sides, which is super weird. This isn't on my other harvest tees that I've made. I want to say it's just from the blocking. It's not really on the underarm. Yeah, it's not really here at all. But it is here. I don't really know what it is. I do feel like it's from the blocking. These were knit in the round, so can't blame it on magic loop. Yeah, I really don't know. Didn't make this a modification. I almost did. Almost. The sleeves are an I-cord edging. The neck is I-cord. The bottom is a rolled hem. Rolled. I was going to make it an I-cord hem. However, I was going to bed. I was catching up on Love Island, UK. I wanted to get a good amount of sleep. I had about 30 minutes left of Love Island, UK before I was caught up. I had about 45 minutes before I needed to go to sleep. And I had what I thought was a good amount of yarn left. I worked maybe 10 centimeters of an I-cord edge. And I was looking at my yarn and I was like, I don't think that's going to be enough for the full all-around I-cord. I looked and it took me like 10 minutes to do that. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to finish this before I go to bed. So I undid the I-cord and I just did a regular bind off so that I would, 1, have enough yarn, and 2, finish before I ran out of reality TV to watch, and 3, finish it so that I had time to go to bed at a reasonable hour. So with that being said, I did work the rolled edge. I know for a fact I'm going to make more of these. This is the white one that I made last summer or 2 summers ago. The white one that I made 2 summers ago, I wear it all the time. I reach for it all the time. I don't see how this one would be any different. I could see myself making more of them. And in the future, I think I would want to make an I-cord edge, mostly because I feel like it's easier to tuck in. It tucks in a bit better instead of being really bulky at the bottom. A rolled edge. So 3 extra bits of fabric at the bottom, and when you tuck it in, it gets a little bulky. So I don't really want that. I think in the future I would work an I-cord edge so it's easier to tuck in. I feel like it would lay, when it's untucked, would lay a little bit flatter instead of flaring out at the bottom. That being said, obviously the rolled edge at like the bottom, the rolled hem, has not stopped me from wearing this all the time. I just think that's something I would consider in the future when I make another one of these. I know I will make another one. Really excited to start wearing this. I feel like it'll be a really nice fall knitted item, and since it is knit in merino, it'll lend itself well for fall and spring wear instead of just exclusively summer. My harvest tee, I love it. Next up, my finished camisole number 5 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I knit this also in Knitting for Olive Merino. This is in the color Dark Cognac. I knit this also using a 3mm needle. I have worn this, I finished it 2 weeks ago, I think. Worn it out twice in the 2 weeks, wore it to an interview, wore it on a night out. I absolutely love this. I talked about the modifications in my last video, my last podcast, but essentially what I did was I cast on, I think, 16 extra stitches on each armband and then worked 16 less increases and started working the increases later. So it would be a little bit more of a drop shoulder instead of a halter look. As you can tell, I talked about this in the last one, but I lost out on the pretty armhole shaping that kind of starts up at the top and then works its way down. However, I knew that I would wear this drop shoulder style. I would wear it more and be more flattering than what was more of a halter look. I was right. I think next time I would cast on a few more stitches here. The straps aren't as thick as I would have wanted it. I would maybe make them like a little more thick. I'm thinking maybe like, what is that? 2 centimeters thicker, so just a couple more stitches. But overall, I absolutely love this. The whole thing is knit in 2x2 rib, which I love. I've learned that about myself this summer. I love, love, love a textured knit. The edges, the armhole edges, and the neck are worked in double knitting, which I've never worked a garment edging in double knitting. I feel like it's such a clean look. I bought 3 skeins of Knitting for Olive Merino to make this. This is knit from the top down. However, usually when I work a garment that is top down and I want to make sure I use up all of the yarn possible, I'll knit the entire garment, usually stop a couple of centimeters after joining in the round, and then go back and work the neck, the sleeves, if there are sleeves, armhole edging, and then pick back up from here and then work my way down so that I use up all of the yarn. And that is exactly what I did this time. And let me show you how much of the Knitting for Olive Merino I have left. This is it. This is all that's left. This is right on. Just perfect. Beautiful. I went through this phase up until maybe this summer where I would measure myself for a pattern. I would know what kind of yarn I wanted, make sure I had the right yardage of yarn, would see how many skeins I needed, and would buy like an extra 2 or 3 skeins. Just in case. Which I understand, just in case. I got burned pretty bad my first year as a knitter. I was making a Mother's Day present for my mom, and I ran out of yarn, and the yarn was out of stock on the website, and I had to buy some from people off of Ravelry to finish the garment in time for Mother's Day. Looking back, I think I just went off of grams of yarn and not the yardage of yarn. I definitely think it was something that went wrong on my end. However, it did heavily scar me, and since then I've bought like extra yarn. Probably, I don't want to say it's probably why I have so much leftover yarn in my yarn stash. Most of my yarn stash, all of my yarn stash is just yarn left over from projects that I used, and there's like 1 or 2 skeins of it because I ordered more just in case. So this summer, I feel like was the first summer that I purposefully restrained myself from ordering additional yarn. And so that's why I'm so proud of that I used almost the exact amount of yarn that I needed, because they can go in my scrap bag and I don't have to sit like looking at them in my stash being like, what am I supposed to do with this? Something that I do need to do with this top, I'm thinking I might do it honestly later in the week, later this weekend or something, is I need to add some elastic because the armholes are already stretching out and the neck is already getting a little bit stretched out. When I tried it on after blocking it the first time, the armholes were perfect, and I watched the first time I wore it as they like slowly stretched out and you could slowly start to see like more and more of my bra. So I need to add in some elastic in the armholes and the neck just to really cinch it in. If I make more in the future, I think I would add a little bit extra on the shoulders to give it a little bit more of a drop shoulder look, not too much, but a little bit. And I would I would start working the armhole increases early and join in the round earlier so that the armholes are not as long, not as gaping. I'll figure it out when we get there. Nothing much really else to say about it. I'm so happy with how these modifications turned out. If you've been following along, you know that I knit the twist loop top earlier this summer, and it is sadly too big. I'm going to remake it, and the shaping is similar to camisole number 5. So this was kind of a test for the twist loop top to see if the casting on extra for the shoulders and gave me the look that I wanted, and obviously it does. I love it. I'll be doing the same exact modifications on the twist loop top whenever I remake it, and probably any other top I make that has that kind of halter looking shaping and I want it to be more drop shoulder. 10 out of 10 recommend for any other knitter that wants to do that. This was my first time making a My Favorite Things knitwear pattern. Liked it. I did have some beef though, which I talked about in my last podcast about how it says to use a US 3/3mm needle for the whole thing, written in the pattern on her website. However, a US 3 needle is a 3.25mm needle. A US 2.5 needle is a 3mm needle. So basically the US doesn't convert to the standard sizing for needles in the written pattern. I reached out to them and I was like, hi, just so you know, this doesn't match. I used a 3mm needle the whole time because that's what it said to do on Ravelry, but just so you know, they don't match. And they emailed me back. I haven't responded yet because it annoyed me. They emailed me back. They were like, the needle sizing listed is just a suggestion. Use whatever gives you gauge. I know that. I know that. I'm not an idiot. I was letting you know that your pattern is wrong, that you don't have the correct sizing listed. I actually forgot to respond to it until right now, so I think I'm going to go back and respond to it. It does just really annoy me when there's errors in patterns that I've paid for. I get that it happens, but when you have test knitters, like that's what test knitters are for. I feel like I'm being pretty unforgiving about it, but I did pay money for this pattern. It's a pretty popular pattern. A lot of people have made it, and there's this error. Call me crazy. Yeah, so this is my first time making one of her patterns. I liked it, easy to follow. I don't have any of her other designs that I'm just dying to make. That's actually not true. Blouse number 1, I think. This is another reason why I haven't made any of her patterns. I can't keep the pattern names straight in my mind. They're all just numbers. They don't mean anything. Yes, blouse number 1 is mad cute, but I did see something out there that was relatively similar to blouse number 1 that didn't have the bell sleeves. I hate bell sleeves. They annoy me so much. So I saw something out there similar that didn't have the bell sleeves. So I might abandon blouse number 1 for the thing without the bell sleeves. So, right, that's it, done. Last finished object, kind of not my best work. I'll be the first to admit that, but it is done. So this is my Eva top by Mochi Knits. Incredibly cropped. Good observation. Incredibly cropped. I knit this using leftover Wool in the Gang Shiny Happy Cotton in Bizarre Orange and Ivory White with a tiny little bit of We Are Knitters the Cotton in Mauve. I had the orange and white from Wool in the Gang left over from an Intarsha top I made a couple of summers ago. And I had the We Are Knitters Cotton left over from my cloud top that I made earlier this summer. So I thought I would combine them into making this top. Last time we saw each other in my other podcast, I made the straps for this way too long. I asked people, what should I do? Will the I-cord fix it? Should I restart? And everybody said, girl, just Kitchener them together. And I was like, damn, that's a really good idea. Why didn't I think of it? So I kitchenered them together, and if you can tell, they're probably a little too short. Too long, too short. I didn't Goldilocks it. I didn't just write it. They're a little too short. I do wish they were a little bit longer. However, it is done. Part of the reason I love doing all these YouTube videos is I feel like it really holds me accountable, because I was like, I need to finish this. I need to see this through, and I need to let everybody know what happens with it. I knit until I ran out of yarn. So if I had more yarn, I would have made it a little bit longer. Alas, I did not have more yarn. So it is very, very cropped. It is very, very cropped on me, not to like an uncomfortable level. In a sense, if I was going out on like a very, very hot day in the South, I think I could see myself wearing it. I am seeing a lot of my college friends this coming weekend, and I'm going to bring it with me and have people try it on. And if somebody absolutely falls in love with it and they want to keep it, it is all theirs. If nobody feels drawn to it and wants to keep it, I would be happy to keep it and wear it. But if somebody tries it on and has a special connection to it, I'd rather them just keep it, because this was simply just to try out this new pattern that I thought was cute and use up some stash yarn that I never would have made something with anyways. The good news is I have some, like a tiny, tiny bit left of the We Are Knitters cotton and Wool in the Gang shiny happy cotton. I don't have really any of it left, which is amazing because it's been sitting in my stash for a while. The Wool in the Gang has been in there for a minute. So that's gone. So I love a stash project. I think the stripes are really cute. I didn't go into it with any solid plan, just wanted some stripes, and I really like the way the stripes turned out. I haven't talked about this pattern yet, just the fact that it was messy on my part. I liked this pattern. It's kind of weird. The straps are a bit too short, and I think the body's a bit too big for the straps being so short. I could see myself making this pattern again and actually taking some time to measure out exactly how long I want the armholes to be, and maybe making a size smaller, because I feel like it's a bit big. I think I would feel more comfortable if it was a bit snugger and then a bit longer. I think the Wool in the Gang shiny happy cotton looks really well on this. I would consider using this again and making more of a solid pattern. I also think the I-cord edging is interesting because it's a 2-stitch I-cord edge. So you really just knit the first stitch and then knit 2 together and slip it back. Knit the first stitch, knit 2 together, which makes it really tight. So like, look at this stretch, okay? That's it. It does not stretch at all. It is solid. It is locked in, which I kind of like. The center I-cord edge, I used the We Are Knitters, the cotton, and then the armhole I-cord edge, I used the Wool in the Gang in Bizarre Orange. Shiny Happy Cotton is Erin, and We Are Knitters, the cotton is DK. So they are different weights. I knew that going in. This wasn't me being stupid. This was me just not caring. So you can definitely see it's a bit tighter when using the We Are Knitters, the cotton, because it's a smaller fiber. So I definitely think it looks better the bulkier I-cord that actually matches the gauge of the pattern. This was my first time using a Mochi Knits pattern. Thought it was well written, easy to understand, really liked it. I really like the way this finished object looks based on the pattern and my expectations of it. My personal execution of it was just weak at best. So I would love to make this again, maybe next summer, a couple of summers after. We'll see, because I do think it's a really cute pattern. It would be a really nice summer tank top. Also, these straps are so thick, it's bra friendly. And I would just take good care to make sure the straps were exactly what I wanted them to be. So overall, very pleased with this. I would wear this, but I'm going to see if one of my college friends likes it more. And then they can have it if they want it. So moving on to my whips. My lime skirt by La Pole. This is what I have so far. I'm making this using Rowan cabled mercerized cotton in the color Natural, which sadly is a discontinued yarn. I made my matching boat neck batwing modified top to go along with this in the same yarn. I have just started my third and final skein of yarn. Since it's discontinued, this is all I have left of it. It was gifted to me by a family friend a couple of years ago. I'm just gonna knit until I run out of the yarn and call it a day. This is knit in fillet stitch. Very fishnetty, very fishnetty. Just been a fun thing to pick up and knit on as I'm feeling it. I get a little bored working on this because it's very repetitive. It's just the same 3 stitches again and again and again and again in a circle until you're done. It's not as mindless as a stockinette or a rib. I still have to pay attention to it. So for that reason, I don't really reach for it that much, but I only have a little bit of yarn left. Yeah, this whole ball of yarn I have left. And then that's it. So I feel like over the weekend I knit on this a little bit. I don't know, I felt like I worked on it for like maybe like 3 hours, and it went from like here to here. It went from being like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna be long enough, to being like, oh, it's really long. I don't know at what point I hit that, but happy to just keep chugging away at this until I'm done. Hopefully, no, not hopefully. I feel like I can say confidently I'll finish it before the summer's over. Will I have a chance to wear it before the summer's over? I don't know, but if not, I'll just have it for next summer. That's it. Really nothing new to say about it, just that I feel like I can finish it before summer's over, and then I'm happy with the way it's going. I have started the Melides top by Inez Oliveira. I just started this. Gorgeous. I am using Knitting for All of Pure Silk in Hokkaido, this gorgeous bright orange. I've been eyeing this top for quite some time. I started it last summer. I was using Knitting for All of merino and mohair held together, and I realized I knit maybe like this much of the body on it. Realized it was not going to be good for a summer garment, so I frogged it. This summer, back at it again, renewed motivation to actually make it this time. I'm going to do a project video for this one, taking videos at various points when I'm making it. So I'm going to go into more detail in that video about the behind the scenes of making this, because it is quite a complicated pattern, very intricate, very, very detailed. It's like 21 pages for this gorgeous, gorgeous reversible top. I did gauge swatch for this one. As you can see here, I gauge swatched. I'm using a 2.75 millimeter needle. This is my flat gauge swatch. I used a garment that I made last summer as my in the round gauge swatch, because I also use Knitting for All of Pure Silk, and I used a 2.75 millimeter needle. My gauge is pretty close. It ranges between 25 and 27 stitches. Her suggestion is 25. I didn't really want to go down in needle size, so we're sticking with this. Measured myself, did all of the adjustments, and I'm feeling good. For those wondering, this is actually the gauge swatch where I made an effort to make my pearls tighter. I think you can see it's like the most even, flat gauge swatch I've ever made in my life. And I feel like it looks nice. I started this off, like the pattern says, with 6 rows of linen stitch, which is gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous linen stitch. I somehow cast on too many stitches, which I noticed when I was dividing for the bust darts. And then the linen stitch, I don't think I worked it tight enough. It's already kind of puckering. I don't want it to flare out at the bottom. So I just decided to frog it and start over, because this was only a couple of hours worth of work and I might as well get it perfect. I actually looked up how to say it, because I was saying melides the whole time before I started watching other people's YouTube videos talking about it, and everybody says melides. So I looked it up. The pattern is named for a city/region in Portugal. So I looked up how to pronounce it, and it's somewhere kind of in between the two. It's like melides, but that feels kind of pretentious saying the melides top. So I'm going to keep saying the melides because it seems kind of pretentious saying melides. I don't speak Portuguese either, so the accent doesn't really come very easily to me. I'm going to stick with the melides top, and I'm so excited to make this and hopefully get it done before summer. Last whip. It's barely a whip. Barely. Okay. I actually do need some advice on this, because I tried Googling and I couldn't. I was like, the knitting community of YouTube will certainly know. Okay. This is, I told you, it's not much. This is the Edda bag 2.0 by Suzanne Muller. It's just a nice market bag with 2 straps. That was very important to me. I wanted a 2-strap market bag. This is knit with Ani Blatt Ecos Ani. another discontinued yarn that was gifted to me by a family friend. I have no idea what color this is. I looked on the entire yarn label to find out what color it was. I have no idea. I'm going to call it watermelon pink. I feel like that fits it well. So that's what I'm going to go with. That's what I've named it, watermelon pink. So I've just started this, okay? And here is my qualm. I did a provisional cast on, just like the pattern says. You basically work in a square, basically work a big square of mesh knitting, and then I'm assuming go through and pick up for the armholes at some point. I don't know, that's a later problem. Okay, it's called open work lace. Open work pattern is what it's called on Ravelry, okay? It's basically a yarn over and then purl two together. And then a yarn over and purl two together. Front and back. Yarn over, purl two together. Yarn over, purl two together. Okay? Here's my problem. I don't hate purling. Okay? I'm not one of those people that hates purling. Okay? I learned to purl Continental from Gotham Knits. She's originally from Ukraine. So it's like an Eastern European way of purling. Basically, all of my purls end up being twisted the way that I work it. I don't do it the thing where the yarn goes up and then down. You basically just pick at it and purl. They all end up being twisted, which is not a problem because just when I see them the next time, I just knit them through the back loop or purl them through the back loop and they untwist themselves. So I'm used to knitting it that way, okay? My problem here is that to purl two together and purl the way that I want to purl, that I normally purl, I have to retwist the stitch. And it's a lot of work to retwist it. It's also a lot of work to purl differently than I normally purl. So either way, it's going to take me a while to either purl differently than I normally purl or to basically reposition the stitch after I purl it on, okay? That's my problem. My question for you guys, if I yarn over knit two together the whole time instead of yarn over purl two together, will it be the same? In my mind, I think yes. Because if you're purling on both sides, and that's the same as knitting on both sides, right? Because either way, I'm thinking if you knit flat and you purl a row and then purl back and then purl a row, purl back, purl a row, purl back, you're going to get garter stitch. If you knit a row, knit back, knit a row, knit back, knit a row, knit back, you're going to get garter stitch. Is that the same in a lace stitch? That is my question. Because I would much, much, much rather yarn over, knit two together, yarn over, knit two together. So then I don't have to knit a different way and I don't have to retwist, like reposition the stitches back on my needle. It would be a lot faster. And it is just that for the whole thing. So that's my question for you guys. I started it with the purls. It took me a long time. And then I redid it with the knitting. So this is me yarn over, knit two together, yarn over, knit two together. It looks like the pattern. So right now I'm thinking I'm going to do it unless somebody leaves a comment that's like, it's going to ruin your whole project. I'm probably going to do it because I like the way it looks right now. And I think it looks similar enough to the pattern and I think it's worth it. But I would still love some guidance because in my mind, I think it's going to look the exact same. I would love if a more experienced knitter would be able to tell me the same thing. I tried Googling it and then it kept pulling up these really complicated lace patterns. I was having a really hard time figuring it out, especially since I didn't know what this stitch was called. So I was really struggling with that. So someone would just let me know. If someone could just offer me a bit of advice on this, I would greatly appreciate it. So that's my Edda bag 2.0. I think this is actually my first bag that I've made, which is pretty exciting. I've been wanting to make this bag for quite some time. It's been in my saves and in my queue for a while. With this yarn in mind, I just never really got around to it because I always felt like I had better things that I wanted to work on. But this year, I felt like I made really good, really solid spring and summer knitting plans. I organized my queue well. I had a good amount of yarn. I don't feel like I overcommitted myself. These 3 whips that I have are pretty much the last of my summer projects that I planned, which is very exciting. The caveat being I need to remake the twist loop top. But if I had done that right the first time, then I would be almost done with my summer knits. So that's the caveat. I do think I will have time. I hope I have time to finish the twist loop top, because there have been a couple of times that I've been getting ready and putting together an outfit. Like, twist loop top would have looked really nice. So yeah, that's it for all my whips. I have some acquisitions this time. I ordered a ton of yarn for my my fall and winter projects. I ordered a bunch of yarn to my friend's house here in upstate New York, and it all arrived because I didn't want to order yarn and it not be where I was. I kind of bop around every 4 weeks or so. Sometimes it takes a while. I have a ton of the yarn here. It's a lot of it. I don't really think I want to go through it in this video. I'm looking at it. It's a massive pile of yarn. I don't really want to go through it. I think that would take a really long time. What I'll do is record a fall winter knitting plans video where I go through all of the yarn that I bought and the plans for it, because everything that I bought has a solid plan, either for me or for a gift knit for somebody else. I won't go through it now, so I'll save that for a little bit later when it's time to start thinking about like actually making fall things, sort of when all my summer projects are wrapped up. However, I did buy some non-yarn like accessories that I'm pretty excited about. So I get all of my drops yarn from Wool Warehouse, which is a UK based store. And I usually buy a knickknack or two from there. I bought this wool wash detergent for washing your knits. This is the jasmine scent, which, not gonna lie, I don't love the jasmine scent. I previously used the lavender scent of this, which I love. I definitely thought I was buying a bigger size wool wash than this because my last one broke and spilled all over the bag that it was in, so there wasn't any left, so I threw it away. And I needed some more, so I bought this, being like, oh, it'll last me the year and I won't have to order any more. This tiny little thing, we'll see how long it lasts. But I'm glad I bought a small one because I don't love the jasmine scent. So that's first acquisition. Second, we're going from the least exciting to the most exciting acquisitions. This is a little tote bag from Wool Warehouse. Sheep on it. Isn't it so cute? I've been eyeing this bag for about a year now, and I haven't bought it. I was like, you don't need more bags, Allie. You have a lot of tote bags. And I saw it and I was like, it would make me actually so sad if I go on their website one day and it was just gone, like they just stopped carrying it. But I realized that and I was like, I've been looking at it for a year. Every time I order from there, I check. And I decided to buy it this time. And it arrived and I didn't realize, but it has like a little sort of a flat bottom. I'm really excited about this. I bought it mostly because it was so stinking cute and not realizing that it had the flat bottom that would make it a bit better to carry like larger items, more things. I did realize though when I bought this, because I was like, oh, I can wear it with like my blue and my pink outfits. Usually when I go out and about, I usually have a tote bag with me. I'm just a big tote bag girl. I have a green and tan tote bag that goes with most of my things that I wear. I wear it with most of my like greens and browns and creams and neutrals. I don't have a lot of things that go with this, and I realized when I bought it and I was really wanting to wear it, and every outfit that I put on, I was like, this actually doesn't go with my outfit besides like the pinks. But either way, it's so cute. I know I'll get some wear out of it. I've already been using it as a backup project bag to hold my like sort of indefinite whips, so it's already getting some good use, so I'm very happy with this. So I was just perusing the knitting YouTube videos one day and was watching a video from Emily Curtis, who does Gently Chaotic Knits. She was talking about how she travels with her knits. Okay, so I watched it, a lot of good advice. She talked about this bag. She said it was her go-to project bag. She spoke so highly about this bag, and I was watching it and I convinced myself that I needed it, and I think I was right. I have been looking for a better project bag. I have kind of a zipper pouch that I've been using that doesn't really hold bigger projects, and usually when I travel, I just put it in a tote bag and call it a day. And I was getting annoyed with like the yarn getting caught in zippers and things like that. And anyways, so I watched her video, saw this bag, was influenced to buy it. So glad. I've had it for a couple of days now. Obsessed. This is the Matter Roots project bag from the Matter Root website. I will link it in the description. This is I think the medium size. A lot of the colors were out of stock, but I got this cute purple color because I have a lot of black bags and I thought I would be able to see this inside the black bag. It only has one inner pocket for your little tools and whatnots. Okay. No zippers. That's the thing. You fold it, you like close it by folding it over. I don't have a project in there, so you won't really get the idea. You basically fold it over until you reach like the edge of where your stuff is. You fold it over, clip it together, and it doesn't unravel. And this is your little project bag. And you can carry it like this. You can hold it, you can squish it into whatever bag you want. And then when you want the yarn, when you want your project, you just unclip it and unroll it. The selling point for me, I was like, oh, cool bag, whatever. She said when she's on a plane, a train, a bus, a cart, whatever, she will like take it and hook it around on a plane, like the tray table, so that you basically have like a yarn bag that you can pull your yarn from. And since there's no zippers, it doesn't get caught in anything, it doesn't have to sit on the floor, you don't have to worry about your yarn like rolling around, or if you're on a plane, it like rolling to the back of the plane, which I'm always kind of scared of. Like I said, I'm taking a trip this weekend. This is gonna be my first time traveling with this, but I'm so excited. I bought this size. I don't think it would fit a full sweater, but definitely like a non-sweater garment or an accessory. It would definitely fit. It would definitely fit that. Depending on how well I like this, depending on how, if I see myself traveling with a sweater, I would consider buying a bigger bag. I just don't think I'm there right now. I think this is going to be it for me. It was definitely an investment. I can't remember how much it was. I want to say it was upwards of like 70, 75 US dollars. So a little more pricey than what I was expecting, but definitely I feel like it's high quality. This buckle is like a sturdy buckle, let me tell you. Overall, I think a good investment. I'm super excited about it. So yes, those are my acquisitions. No yarn to talk about now because I feel like it'll take me at least like 30 minutes just to go through all of the yarn that I bought and my plans for them. So that's the end of the knitting content. I usually continue to talk about my other non-knitting interests after this. However, if you were only here for the knitting, I won't be offended if you just leave. Thank you for staying and for hanging out and listening to me talk about my knits. I appreciate it. And if you want to hear me ramble about my other interests, that's going to start now. I'll go from like most intellectual to least intellectual. So I'm going to start with my book, then I'll go to Formula One, and then we'll talk about the Love Island UK finale. I'm in a book club with my college friends. I've talked about this before. We've read some really cool books so far, but this month we're reading Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, the same guy that wrote The Martian. It's very similar to The Martian in terms of vibes and in terms of like general plot and concept. I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm about halfway through. I'm really liking it. If you're into like sci-fi, especially space sci-fi, if you enjoyed The Martian, definitely give this a try. I'm not done with it. My boyfriend did, however, already finish it and said that it was an excellent ending. I'm listening to the audiobook so that I can knit while I listen to this book, and the audiobook is really well done, in my opinion. So, again, not finished. Hopefully next time I record a podcast, I'll be finished with it. Yeah, really great sci-fi book. I'm really enjoying reading it so far. Formula One, obviously it's summer break right now. I'm excited for the next race. Carlos is going to Williams. I'm so excited about this. It is a step down, like 2 steps down for him, but I don't care because I love Williams. I love James Vowles, probably one of my top 3 favorite team principals on the grid. Love James Vowles. I love Alex Albon. Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz are my 2 favorite drivers on the grid, and they're both going to be at the same team next year. So for me, selfishly, I'm really excited about this because I'm going to have a team that I'm like all in for, and it's Williams that I'm going to love like most parts of it. So I'm really excited about that. I am sad for Carlos. I think it's a step down, but I think he's going to a team that seems to be on the up and up. I think he'll do good things. I think he'll be happy. It's not the car that he deserves, in my opinion. I think he's a really good driver, really high caliber driver, and he deserves to be at a top team. That's just not where the cards fell for him, unfortunately. I'm glad he has a seat. I'm glad he's staying on the grid, and I'm glad he's going to a team that I really like because I love Carlos. So that's exciting, exciting, exciting. I recorded and released my last podcast the day before the news dropped, and I saw it and I was like, are you kidding? It's going to be old news by the time I record my next podcast because I've been talking about this for quite some time now. Like, where is Carlos going to go? His future was really stressing me out. So happy he's landed somewhere good, somewhere decent, with some really good team colors. Love the Williams blue. So that's exciting. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I can't remember what happened in the Belgian Grand Prix, except for the fact that George Russell had a great win, and then it got taken away from him because of the car weight, and now we have a Lewis Hamilton win. That's about all I can remember from it. It's a good race. I'm sad George Russell, I'm not necessarily his biggest fan. I don't love George Russell. He's all right. I am sad for him, though. I felt like he really earned that win. It was his idea to do the one stop, and it really worked to his advantage. I feel like he really earned that win, and it was sad seeing it get taken away, but he had the other oopsie win earlier in the season, so I feel like kind of balances out, Now, Love Island UK. I finished the whole thing, so if you have not finished or have not been spoiled on the finale, this is your chance to leave before you get spoiled. Okay. I don't watch it with a VPN. Otherwise, I'd be able to watch it more so live as opposed to like a week later, which is when the episodes are released on Hulu. So I was like sadly scrolling through TikTok. I got spoiled for who won, which is such a bummer. I usually would see like a clip that was Love Island based and I would like scroll past it really fast so I didn't get any spoils, but it was just some guy talking and he had text over it and I read the text and I was like, oh, that's who won. Oh my god. So that was a bummer to get spoiled because I think I would have been really, really surprised by the end. I'm not unhappy that I'm about to say who wins, so your last chance to leave. I'm really happy that Mimi and Josh won. I am happy. I do feel bad for Nicole and Kieran because I truly believed up until I got spoiled that they had it in the bag. I feel like they were, the strongest couple for the longest time, and that's why I felt like they had it in the bag. They did get a little, maybe like cringy, maybe a little playing towards the cameras towards the end, but overall, I think they were a cute, solid couple. I feel like they'll do well on the outside. I really came around towards them at the end. Especially, I feel a bit vindicated saying get Joey off my screen, get Sean off my screen. The way they kept coming for Mimi and Josh, I was like, stop, you're embarrassing yourself. And I'm glad that pretty much all of the UK agreed on that and they just got him out of there. It was also so satisfying seeing all the ex-Islanders vote off Joey and Jesse because you realize there, like, Joey really like screwed over so many people, and I'm glad they got to kick him off. Joey and Sean really coming for Josh and Mimi. I was like, leave it alone. They say they're fine. Io and Jess say they're fine. Like, just leave them be. It's pretty unattractive. That being said, I don't want to defend them. I'm not going to defend them because the way they did it was unattractive, mean, it was abrasive. They were just being straight up rude. I love that Nicole and Kieran continued to call them out and basically like, you're acting ridiculous. You're acting like an asshole. So I love that they did that. I will say though, I do believe when Mimi wanted to meet Io on the terrace, I do believe that she kind of wanted to get him back. And I do think up until that moment, she thought maybe she could get him back. I don't think her feelings for Io were as squashed as she led us to believe. I think Io's feelings for Mimi were pretty squashed. It was also sad that Io and Jess, I feel like we only saw their relationship in the context of the drama with Mimi. The only time we really saw them having conversations and talking, for the most part, the majority of it was in relation to Mimi. I don't really feel like their relationship was done justice because we didn't get to see like Io and Jess. We always saw like Io and Jess talking about Mimi. So I feel like they got kind of screwed over in terms of like the editing. Because I do feel like they're a good couple. They're cute. And okay, two things can be true. Also, Mimi can want Io back, and Mimi and Josh can also be really good together. Because I think they're a really good couple. I think Josh is a solid, solid man, and Mimi's a solid girl, and they are a great, like, mature, healthy relationship. Okay? And I think that's why they won, because I feel like everything they did was looked and felt very natural. Nicole and Kieran looked and felt very natural at the beginning, and towards the end, I think, was a little bit more for the cameras. Mimi and Josh felt natural the whole time, and I think that's why they ended up winning. And I also think they won as because everybody was just like, Joey and Sean, shut up, they're great. So I was really, that's why I'm really sad I was spoiled, because I would have been so surprised watching it live, seeing them win. I'm really happy for them. They deserve the money. They really did deserve to win. So that's pretty much how I feel about it. Overall, happy for them. I know Nicole and Kieran are hurting. Let me know your thoughts on the finale, and let me know if you agree or disagree with me. My TikTok hasn't quite caught on that I finished the finale, and they haven't been showing me people's opinion of the finale, probably because I watched it 2 weeks after it aired. So if you watch the finale and you have opinions on it, please let me know. I would love to hear. And other than that, I think that's it for today. I think I'm done talking. I need to go frog my melides top and restart it and add elastic to my camisole number 4. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you continue to enjoy the last bits of summer. Get your summer knits in. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.